Chosen one, you've been right the entire time. For weeks, your intuition has been whispering warnings, sending signals, pushing you to look deeper. Someone around you wasn't competing, they were copying, not admiring, envying. Their jealousy went far beyond casual comparison. Your light was too blinding, your gifts too natural, your rise too effortless for them to stomach. They tried to mirror your creativity. They imitated your ideas, your confidence, your rhythm. But what they could not imitate, what no one can imitate, is authenticity. And that is where their downfall began. Even people at the top, people like Elon Musk, minds trained to identify rare brilliance, can recognize real frequency when they see it. They don't see your talent. They see your trajectory. They see the way you keep succeeding even in silence. The way divine timing bends itself around your steps. They see the kind of presence no algorithm can replicate. What your enemy meant to use against you became your confirmation. What they meant to sabotage became your acceleration. The universe didn't let their plan touch you because your path isn't built on imitation. It's built on destiny. And you cannot steal destiny. You cannot copy a calling. You cannot clone divine favor. Now the tables have fully turned. The very person who tried to dim you is watching you shine brighter than ever. Their jealousy exposed itself. Their intentions revealed themselves. In your eyes, it kept going anyway, because chosen ones don't collapse. They convert pressure into power. And whether your enemies like it or not, the world is beginning to notice what they tried so hard to hide. You're real, you're rare, and you're unstoppable. It was architecture, not arbitrary critique. Brick by brick, they were constructing a prison within your head. When you told them about your vision, they saw the problem right away. They pointed out 10 things you hadn't done while you were celebrating a victory. It was a surgical pattern. Something in them they couldn't identify was threatened by your advancement. You had to remain underneath them in order to maintain their sense of order. Not only did your development upend that hierarchy, but it also revealed the deception upon which their whole identity rested. The fallacy that they were better, more worthy, and more competent. Their foundation was shaken when they saw you rising without their consent. Some were family members who ought to have helped you, even if they weren't your direct adversaries. They ought to have congratulated you since they were pals. Your aspirations should have been safeguarded by them as partners. Instead, since they had access, they turned to become your most deadly detractors. They were the ones who understood your anxieties and knew just where you were weak. They made use of the information as a weapon. The relative wove worry around jealousy. The buddy pretended to be realistic while hiding jealousy. Control was disguised as protection by the companion. Each of them performed their parts flawlessly. However, they were unaware of a vital fact. In reality, they were constructing something completely different with each brick they put in your mental prison. Something that they would live to regret forever. The brainwashing was so deep that their words became your ideas. You began to doubt everything, including your skills, value, and right to dream. They sowed doubt, and you gave it regular attention. The questions kept repeating like a virus. Maybe they are right. Maybe I'm reaching too far. Maybe I should just accept this. Making you your own jail guard was their brilliance. You performed a job for them because their limiting ideas were so loud. Before they could, you censored yourself. Before you shared your aspirations, you shrank them. To live up to their expectations, you reduced your standards. This was humility disguised as survival mode. You were also creating resistance each time you reiterated their complaints. You were building immunity, much like a body exposed to little amounts of poison. They continued raising the dose because they believed it would break you. Rather, every dosage strengthened you. Your body developed the ability to break down toxins and turn it into energy. In the moment, the price was everything. You lost a part of yourself each time you turned down your light to make them feel better. You stopped speaking the truth, expressing your ambitions, and sharing your successes. Automatic self-silence took over. Prison became protection. You started performing as a persona they created. You discovered what should remain secret and what was allowed. You gained superhuman intuition into their emotions and stressors. You were a part of an odd dual world. On the surface, You were a wonderful fit for the part. Something was going on below that they couldn't see. Their assaults were fueling the blaze they were attempting to put out. Oxygen was present in every insult. Each dismissal served as fuel. Every frigid moment served as fuel. They took that to mean that you were collecting intelligence in order to comply. You were observing them, picking up on their habits, and comprehending their anxieties. You were charting every bar and lock in that cage, not simply getting by. You were planning your escape route in the back of your mind. Even when it was buried behind uncertainty, something inside of you refused to die. Your reality was that blaze. The part of you that understood you were not destined for this prison. In reality, their efforts to extinguish that flame fueled it. Do you recall the bricks they were setting? They were creating the furnace that would change you, but they believed they were constructing your jail. Clarity, not thunder, was the breaking moment. One morning, you realized that their portrayal of you was a work of fiction. You had finished your performance. Your soul, rejecting the untruth, was the source of your fatigue. They never anticipated the force that emerged from that weariness. You began to pose new queries. Not what is wrong with me, but what is wrong with this situation? Not how can I please them, but who am I without their chains? These inquiries provided guidance rather than instant solutions. You moved within, toward truth, toward the flame they were attempting to extinguish. At this point, everything changed. The moment they unknowingly lost you forever. You ceased acting, contracting, and accepting their story. There was an earthquake under their feet as the transition occurred in silence. You didn't consult them while making choices. You constructed things without consulting them. You celebrated victories without waiting for their approval. You came to the realization that their ideas were projections rather than reality. Their critiques were admissions about themselves, not facts about you. All of the restrictions they imposed on you were also restrictions they imposed on themselves. Their ceilings were yours to inherit. You began to experiment with defiance. Small actions at start, including prioritizing your pleasure, expressing an unpopular viewpoint, or saying no without explanation. Like leaping from a cliff and realizing you had wings, each act was both frightening and freeing. The terror began to give way to the freedom. Those who had remained silent began to speak out as you regained control. They said they saw your brilliance all the time. They acknowledged that they were also waiting for you to see it. Once you stopped believing the enemy's story, these friends showed up. Every autonomous decision took a brick away from their wall. Their restraint was broken by every gesture of self-confidence. The balance of power had totally reversed. The individual who asked for their approval now doesn't give a damn. Their perplexity began when they lost the ability to recognize you. They anticipated that you would remain permanently weakened. You were the supporting character in their screenplay. They expected you would follow the full arc they created for you. However, you stole their script and burned it. Now see the consequences of quitting their game. Not only does the balance of power change, it entirely flips. In their bones, they sense it. It begins modestly. They see that you are not seeking their input. They then see that you are keeping your victories to yourself. Then it dawns on them that you are creating a life to which they have no access. Every observation adds up to something frightening. They are no longer necessary. They are unable to describe the power you exude. You are just being within your power. You are not attempting to impress anybody. This self-assurance is captivating. Their world seems empty as a result. They begin making comparisons between you and the people they are currently with. From what they had to what they have today. From their current location to yours. They are further destroyed by each comparison. They are observing you from a distance, and something seems off. You're not upset, resentful, or even considering them. More than anything else, this perplexes them. They anticipated your destruction and your stumbling return. They anticipated anger or despair. You are just flourishing, shining, and living instead. More destructive than any retaliation is this apathy. Even if you detested them, their significance would remain. They would take up your thoughts if you were upset. However, you're unaffected, calm, and neutral. They're coming to terms with the fact that they lost more than just you. They lost significance. They assumed they were the main players in a movie, but they ended up as extras. Some use informal communications to test the waters. These are missions of reconnaissance. They are attempting to assess your mental state. However, your answers, if any, are courteous but aloof. They have nothing to latch onto emotionally. They may sense that you've grown inaccessible. Something far worse is going to emerge from their bewilderment. They're now perplexed. They'll be haunted soon. Not only is what you became remarkable, but it is also inaccessible. They are unable to match the frequency. As you continue to rise, the distance becomes wider every day. Some people are now choking on remorse. It was the crushing type of remorse, not the light kind. They see your success, and each picture brings back a plethora of memories. Every rejection, every act of cruelty, every instance when they put their ego above your emotions. These recollections repeat themselves. They can now plainly see themselves, and it's horrible. How insignificant their actions were. The pettiness of their motivation. They're forced to see their own timidity as they watch you fly. They provided conditions, and you offered love. They insisted on a performance after you revealed your true nature. They gave you uncertainty after you showed them your potential. They treated something valuable like garbage. That magnificent item is now unattainable. They are unable to touch the light, but they can see that you are shining. They regret realizing that they poisoned something unique that they were given. Their understanding comes at an especially cruel time. They were unable to see your worth while you were with them, giving all you had. They were overly preoccupied with control and too busy pointing out faults. They see things plainly now that you're gone and changed. They failed to see the depth. They disapproved of the genuineness. They took their affection for granted, but it was too late for clarity. While they were still debating whether to enter, the door closed. Some people attempt to make sense of their loss by talking to others about you. They provide narratives that enhance their own image. However, they're exposed by their passion. Why can't people quit talking about you if you weren't that special? They realize deep down that the version of you they want is no longer alive. That individual is no longer with us. You passed away and came back to life as someone they can't control. The door disappeared, not just closed. The bridge vaporized rather than just burnt. They made their own decisions. Others construct denial-based fortifications. They write stories in which you're the bad guy. Because the truth would destroy them, they cling to these falsehoods. However, their actions reveal them. Why do people find your accomplishment so fascinating? They are compelled to gaze at your accomplishment every day like a mirror. Everything they won't acknowledge is reflected in it. Their inaction, their cowardice, their unwillingness to change. They remain precisely where they were while you changed. The same jail, the same reasons, the same tales. Their paralysis is highlighted by your ascent. To keep you from becoming who you ought to be, they erected barriers. The walls remain intact, although they are deserted. You are miles away from them, reaching into a realm they cannot imagine. The buildings they erected to restrict you ended up serving as monuments to their own restrictions. Until you stopped believing, you demonstrated that those barriers were just in your head and theirs. They see every decision they failed to make when they look at you today. All the risks they avoided. Every chance they miss. You are live evidence that their justifications are untrue. You had the same challenges and uncertainties. However, you overcame them and are now at liberty. The change is also noticeable to others around them. Mutual friends see the difference and make judgments. Some have openly said to your adversaries that it was an error to lose you. This change in how others regard them is felt by your adversaries. Both respect and interest are diminished. It is evident to everybody who is really carrying out the evolutionary process. You change your frequency to something they can't match. Because you perform the job others won't do, not because you're superior. You confronted the darkness from which they continue to flee. They keep revisiting the wounds you treated. Whereas others went for comfort, you went for truth. You now function at a genuine power frequency. When they are afraid, they vibrate. They are driven wild by this unassailable quality. It's alignment, not arrogance. You are in harmony with who you really are, what you project, and who you are identical. Tire for a double down. Taya chatter bekomis in creas ingli combative. Taya sabotage bekomis in creas ingli inventive. Te bekome more anxious to show that you're not okay. However, those who are desperate tend to be careless, and they are becoming more careless. Te li digital traces that they are unervare arbeid monitored. Te make triats that they are unervare arbeid recorded. Te have discussions that they are unervare arbeid recalled. Where action te take against you strengthens tire case against you. For the next repercussions, they are compiling tire on evidence file. They will be astounded by this particular stuff. The family member in question is very sorry. Practical regrets, not moral honest. Tire on reputation is being harmed by being linked to your ex. People are conversing, seeing the connection, and asking awkward questions. This family member understands that they exchanged you for Someone who would ruin tire reputation. They have heated disagreements with each other. More devotion, encouragement, and approval are what your ex expects. This member of the family feels smothered. For the first time, they are beginning to see your ex clearly. They know why you went. They are able to identify manipulative tendencies that they believe it were exclusive to you. It turns out that this is how your ex handles everyone. You were the first to have the strength to go, but you were not unique in your suffering. This family member is currently confined. They have to entire mistake before they might go. Without losing team service, they can't remain. They can't speak the truth without being caught. They can't continue lying without going in Sahne. They have put team service in IR. It is daily self-torment to watch you be free while others are imprisoned. They put a lot of effort into ruining your reputation. They portray you as troublesome, unstable, and challenging. They made up a story about how innocent they were. It worked for a while. People perceive you as the issue, believe them, and see that with them. However, false reputations are short-lived. These need to be kept up. You need to recall who you spoke to. The narrative must match and the details must be accurate. Eventually, cracks show up. There are inconsistencies and information that don't add up. People begin to inquire. Doubt spreads like wildfire once it starts. People now see the past with new eyes. They recall incomprehensible stuffs. They identify tricks they fell for and trends they overlooked. The tide is turning slowly. People understand that you weren't the issue. They identify the true issue. They realize that they were tricked. Your enemies can't panic as a result of this change. Their reputation, which is a kind of social currency, is quickly losing value. Yours is expressing gratitude. Those who have ceased speaking are contacting others. People are expressing regret for believing falsehoods. Those who have taken seeds are changing their allegiance. They are isolating team service as a result of the social exclusion they attempted to inflict on you. A neutral body of theirs is ready to make a decision. They will openly support you. They will sehen enough, not because you asked them to. They have heard about this incident and sehen it unfold. They can no longer remain quiet. It will set off a chain reaction when the Someone stands out and reports what TSAV. When one speaks the truth, others are given license. Others get confidence when one individual breaks away. Someone remarks, the emperor has no clothes. Ten everyone acknowledges that they had also seen the nudity. It's almost time for your police to lose their supporters and audience. They are forced to confront team service in the absence of that framework. They need to take stock of their decisions and own up to their mistakes. They will be shattered by that reckoning in ways you could never imagine. You have no choice but to expose them, and there are several ways to do it. By witnesses who remained silent for too long. From parts who gave too much permission. From relatives who should have corrected but instead shielded. From tire on lips when they let tire guard down and reveal the truth. There will inevitably be exposure. The time is ideal. The repercussions will be freeing for you and disastrous for them. You no longer have any stake in tire demise. You are not holding out for karma. You are constructing your dreams, living your life, and making your dreams come true. You are buying yourself, healing, and loving. The last insult to tire ego is set distance. Te must be important to you and take up space in your mindestens. You will kick them out entirely. The ultimate power move is set. Not retaliation, but such total healing that te lose all significance. Te go on to suchen extent that te become history. Te soar to such heights that te are undetectable from your new height. Your vindictiveness does not make you superior to them. Buying free markets you better. Te will never be able to win freedom. That is genuine healing and spiritual development. That's true power. You no longer need confirmation from the outside world. You no longer need praise for your efforts. You realize you will already won, so you give up on getting even. They are still running a race, and you are at the finish line. They are still battling for a victory that you have already secured. They are still looking for peace, but you will already found it. You will already shun it into the person te reposing is. Te just aren't aware that you have already won. The most horrible manner of finding out is about to happen. Those who are causing the no triumph by eliminating their adversaries. They triumph by elevating and succeeding to the point where their adversaries demolish team service. They succeed by blasting so brichtly that those who dislike them get exhausted. They succeed because their genuine strength reveals everyone else's deception. You just need to plan or strategize. You just have to return their hatred. You just have to be authentic, strong, and wohle. That was sufficient. That was eating. It was more than sufficient. You just continue doing what you have been doing until this reaches a breaking point and entire world falls apart. Continue to win, develop, shine, and heal by leading an authentic life. Continue to be a living example of how you can overcome adversity and emerge stronger. You have always been and still are that person. No matter how hard te treat, te wäre unable to destroy that person. Someone selected, destined for greatness. Someone who is shielded by unseen powers. Someone te will never touch yet who is destined for prosperity, joy, and tranquility. A terrible truth is about to hit the police. The fact that you prevailed, not your retaliation. You prevailed by becoming better, maturing, and moving on. By becoming impenetrable, you triumphed. You prevailed by marking your own decisions until you shung it into someone else. That triumph is more delicious than any retaliation. Tere is more to that serenity than any justification. Any affirmation is not as genuine as that power. People you will never meet hear your tale. Someone is now motivated to take the first step toward independence by your example. Your adversaries see the construction of this legacy. They watch as your influence grows. They are aware that they might have participated in this movement. Rather, they are anecdotes in your tale of Genesis. The bad guys who unintentionally produced a hero. The hush that now envelopes you as checkmate, not absence. Your adversaries remain silent because they have nothing more to say. Every critique was shown to be incorrect. All restrictions were broken. Every failing forecast turned into a joke. They lost after risking everything. The game is done. You created wings while they constructed a cage. You wrote an empire, but they wrote your conclusion. They were unaware that you were a seed when they attempted to bury you. Your adversaries wanted you to be little and unimportant. Rather, you became notorious because of their brutality. Your brightness was set against the background of the darkness they cast at you. They believed they were authoring your terrible demise. They were preparing you for your biggest start. This goes beyond retaliation. The message your life conveys is what matters. They dwell in a deafening stillness. It is weighty, not serene. This is the unspoken quiet of remorse. Knowing they were mistaken, they remain silent. They are always accompanied by this quiet. Into their quiet times, their jobs, and their relationships. It's always there. This is not what you did for them. You deserved better. So you changed. Because living little had worn you out. Because you had a feeling that there was more. Because of its purity, your strength is unstoppable. They were never the focus of this excursion. You needed to remember who you are. They acted as catalysts, painful yet essential. Your ascent was due to them, not in spite of them. They showed you what you were made of, not because they were helpful. Pressure is necessary for diamonds. Fire is necessary for gold. You were under pressure. You were scorched. What's left is precious, impenetrable, and indestructible. They recognize you by the quiet you hear. They made all the wrong decisions. There is still a violent awakening. They awaken to the truth of who you have become every day. They see proof of your success every day. Their new normal is this waking every day. They go through times in your life that you did not experience. They see you surrounded by admirers. Others see you accomplish feats others claimed were impossible. Every observation is a little demise, a reminder that they committed a cosmic error. Rise higher, chosen one. That's what you were created to do, not to prove anything. As you assert heights they cannot fathom, your adversaries will observe from below. You won't hear the soundtrack, which is their regret. You'll be too busy living what they said was an impossible existence. It's your time. You are what you are because of what you have gone through. You become the sun because they wanted you to be in the dark. Continue to shine. For you, not for them. Because you should be able to completely express who you are. Because what you carry is what the world needs. Because you are born with the light. It can never be dimmed again. This is your victory, your legacy, and your witness. Step into it. Take ownership of it. Become it. Your adversary's silence indicates that they have now realized what you have always known. You weren't supposed to remain in their cage. You were destined to soar. Playing tiny was never intended for you. You were destined to be a legend. Their approval was never intended for you. You were supposed to prove yourself. For them, the awakening was harsh as, after living a falsehood, the reality is harsh. The idea that they could confine you is a falsehood. However, selected ones cannot be imprisoned. The chosen ones escape, change, ascend, and become precisely what they were selected to be.